Okay, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining today to Platform Analytics Academy. Some real quick information, just logistical information, and we'll get right into our Q&A that we're going to have today. So real quick, get this, there we go. So logistical information. So as always, this is for you. So today, especially, hopefully you'll get some better understanding of some questions that you may have and some practical guidance on those particular questions. So, and then maybe for some of you that hadn't thought about certain things, you'll get some fresh ideas from some answers that you actually hear today as well. So this will be recorded and it'll be out in the community later on today as part of the event. And it'll also be on YouTube as well. And of course, this is a Q&A. So the big thing with that is let's try to put the questions inside of the Q&A rather than the chat. The big reason for that is so the panelists can actually answer questions via type, or also they can select to answer it live, and then we'll get to those in that order. So actually, if you have questions as I get through some of the rest of this logistical information, you can go ahead and start putting those into the Q&A, and we'll get on those soon. Real quick here. So my name is Thomas Davis, as usual, and I have, excuse me, a lot of panelists here today with me that are very knowledgeable. So again, we're going to be able to answer some really good questions, I'm hoping, today. So we have Dan, Tara, and Adam. These are my teammates that I have with me, and then I also have some extended teammates, Olga, Marta, Rabajan, and Isaac, that are also on the call today. And again, just the knowledge that these panelists bring should give us an opportunity to answer some really great questions. So again, the big thing today is just that. This is an open Q&A session for any questions that anyone has. So with that, I haven't seen any questions come in so far. I'm hoping that some people are typing some questions, but go ahead and start putting in your questions in the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and get on those. So the very first one is PA's best kept secret in your experience.
We should all have an opinion on here, but I'll start. The thing that I talk about the most is, I'm going to turn on my camera too for targets. And I'd say it's a secret because not enough people use them. We're just looking at the numbers. We're looking at the scores we get. But when you start thinking about targets and are we achieving the targets, then you get so much more value out of PA. And that's something we just can't get out of reporting. We can't get out of other tools. So setting targets is the secret to getting the value out of PA. Lots of other stuff comes up. And I guess there's a lot of other things depending on your use case. But once you start using your targets, everything else starts coming out more clearly. And it's going to drive the value of PA and reporting, and having that all in instance becomes actually, it's when we start taking reporting and actually driving action out of it.
I think I would agree with that as well. People don't leverage targets. And when we talk about, how to best leverage performance analytics to use it as a performance management solution, the really only way to show success is to be applying targets so you can show how you're moving against that needle. So I would 100% agree with that. I was trying to think of like something else and clever, but really that's it. And it's not, we don't push it out there enough maybe, or advertise it out there enough. I also feel like Spotlight is a little bit of a secret treasure that we don't maybe see get used quite enough. And Spotlight's a way to stack rank or weight priorities that you set within your organization to determine what you want your, it's like for queue management, right? Mostly what you want your priority and focus to be. So if you have something that's like P4 that's been open it was originally designed to catch things that slip through the cracks. So like a P4 that's maybe been open for 60 to 90 days, that could definitely impact your NPS score. So it would be something that you'd want to push up to the surface so that it didn't fall through the cracks. But I've also seen other customers leverage it on just their critical cases. If there are critical cases that come in, and let's say you know it's a high ACV customer or whatever things are important to you within your organization, you can actually stack rank and weight those to make sure that those float up to the top. And I feel like that doesn't get enough attention because it's pretty powerful and can really help drive success, especially when it comes to queue management with your incidents, cases, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. There you go, Dan. You have something else? Go ahead.
It's not even as specifically, it's not PA specific, but the launch interactive analysis is one that is kind of a hidden tool from any list view. But I especially love to use it from inside of like an analytics hub type of view. If I don't know if I want to, if I'm not sure if everyone knows about it, but I can show it here real quick too, what I'm talking about. If you haven't used it, here we go. So this is a sharing screen, just a standard analytics hub view. But when I'm in the show records mode, in this case, this is just a list of my open incidents. I can choose any one of my column headers and do this launch interactive analysis, which then opens up a predefined report-based dashboard with all kinds of interactive filters already defined for it. But it's a nice way to, if you have this, particularly if you have the struggle of like, the two only be able to go 2 layers deep on breakdowns and things of that sort. This can be a way to really actually get into the data in ways that you really couldn't have been able to before, that you really probably may not be aware of. So I just find this to be a really nice way to be able to interact with the records themselves, but then also do a lot of, as the name implies, interactive analysis.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Anyone else have anything that they'd like to share before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I have my second favorite one. All right. This is my other plug. I got a lot of them. Interactive analysis is a good one. Spotlight is a good one. But I will actually say that the best hidden feature of PA is the ServiceNow platform. So, and I say that because a lot of us just focus in on what can PA do, separating what can reporting do. And the secret is don't separate them and don't separate it from the platform. The real power that we have in performance analytics and reporting in all the platform analytics is that we're able to leverage everything else the platform does. And whether that's importing data with Integration Hub or processing it in a flow or having a target, when a target is nearly being met, having it send some notification out or take some other action, create some incident if a target is breached, that all of that functionality in the platform and making it actionable and having it take action automatically and showing all the right information in the right place, that is what makes PA so much better, right? Being in the platform and in that system where people are seeing the analytics when they're doing their work, that is what's different. And that's the most valuable thing that we have in there. That is very underutilized because we just say, I'm a PA person, I'm a platform person, and we all need to be thinking about it all together.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Anyone else have anything before we go to the next question? Any of our panelists? Hidden gems, secrets? Okay. Well, Adam, I believe you selected yeah, go for it.
I did. All right. So a question came in about, is there a preferred way of taking a daily score? We're getting pretty technical on this one. A daily score from an automated indicator and copying it into a monthly manual indicator. And the use case is that an monthly automated indicator doesn't give me the last score for the day. So there's 2 issues here. So one, there's no API to create scores. So the answer is no. There's not actually a good way. There's no good solution for doing that. The solution is use API formulas, the API formula API, which I think we have written up in some blogs. So I'll have to go when I'm done here. I'll go see if I can track down some of the answers there. And I know it's in the documentation, but the formula APIs, this was explicitly one of the use cases that we built it to work on. And there's a little bit of nuance. You don't just check a box. You got to do a little bit of work to configure it, but you absolutely can, so that I can take a daily indicator and I create a formula on top of it, a formula, not just a time aggregate, but a formula on it, which takes the last day of the month or the 15th day of the month or the 3rd day of the month, whatever it's going to be. You can have the formula pick the last day of the month. And that's incredibly useful for backlog, right? I have a daily backlog of open incidents and I want to know the monthly number because daily is a little too blinding for me. They're perfectly great use cases on why you want to do this. A lot of times I'll discourage you saying, we don't really want to do this. This is completely valid. I completely understand why you want to do it. And you can do it with the formula dynamically without copying it to a manual indicator, but just by pulling the last score of the month in the formula indicator. So we'll get that documentation pulled up and I'll answer it in here. But hopefully that will encourage you to take a look at the formula APIs, which are incredibly powerful and let you squeeze out a lot more than what we were able to do just straight out of the box. You can pick the last day of the month. You can compare, compare from 7 days ago compared to from a certain date, things that are more than just from the previous period. So just huge things to take a look at and explore to handle those advanced use cases.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. I know that we're getting a lot of questions answered via type, so that's good as well. So, and what I'll do, just so everyone knows, is when we did this last time, I actually went through and pulled all the questions out. And so in the YouTube video, if you missed something about a question, if it was answered live, then you'll actually have the ability to click directly on that question and go to that point inside of the video. So if you're not able to take all of the notes, don't sweat that. Again, it will be recorded and I'll make it easy on you for a specific question. So let's see, we have one. Okay, there you go, Isaac. So Isaac's going to answer the question. We're trying to apply PA to domain separated environment. Can you give some guidance on the best practice for applying this? Isaac?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. So the main thing you need to keep in mind is, first of all, understand all your requirements per domain, right? So you need to understand per domain what type of indicators that you want to create, what kind of requirements you have, if you want to have your aggregated scores there or not. But that mainly depends a lot on your domain tree. So if your domain tree is configured correctly and it is, you don't have use cases where you pick up multiple different domains from different levels of hierarchy and permissions, which can make things a bit tricky, then you should be okay. If not, yes, then we will, well, you need to create a bit more tricky configuration with our domain, with our data collector and the domain configuration plugin that we give, where you can pick up different domains and aggregate them, which will give you what you need, but of course the maintenance can be a bit more difficult, especially if you move domains in your tree from one place to another, and with that you change also the security with it. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Charlie.
So Charlie, with that answer, and you can definitely comment back on if that was not enough for you, and so just let us know. But Isaac, thank you very much for that one. So, Terrace, you want to go ahead and start with Pierre's? since you clicked that to answer live?
Sure, I did. I'm going to answer it to the best of my ability, but we do have more seasoned experts on the call. So please correct me, Robert, Marta, if I'm wrong. We don't have a current way for you to migrate an existing dashboard to the new Next experience at this point in time. If it is something that you are currently uptaking, and we encourage you to do that because it is a different experience and a whole new learning experience for you. But we don't have any way to migrate at the time. What I will say though is if you are rebuilding dashboards using UI Builder, how do I say this? When we move to Tokyo and Utah, we will have a different dashboard experience again. That's a little bit more user friendly, a little bit more drag and droppy, similar to our old experience in the what we call our classic experience, versus using UI Builder, which is a little bit more technical. So you may find that you have to rebuild it again if you want to take on the new experience with that dashboard. So that's where I'm getting confused, Marta and Robert. If they build it in UI Builder and then they upgrade to Tokyo, they can still use it. It's just if they want to make changes using the dashboard inline editor, that might be a challenge, correct?
If they build it using the dashboard builder, then we are gonna move them. If they build them if they build pages using the UI builder, nothing will be affected.
Okay.
They can create those pages back as with the new dashboard editing capabilities from Tokyo onwards.
Okay, so but there is no migration right now from Classic to UIB.
Correct. There is no migration, neither from the classic responsive dashboards to the new dashboard editing experience that we are releasing in Tokyo.
Right. So we're thinking possibly Vancouver, where we would have some sort of migration tool. And right now it's still just possible. We're not entirely committed to whether or not that's something we can deliver at this time, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess if am I audible? I think so,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. If I still add to that one, the thing that we're doing with moving into what we call the new UI, the next experiences, is multiple different things. We're taking on this chance to not just provide everything in a better experience. We're also looking at the components that we are moving, whether it's a dashboard, whether it's a creation flow or your creation or configuration flow, whether it's the charts itself, and immediately see where we can sort of enhance to add those features that are requested a lot, maybe immediately to those components. So we're shooting at many targets here. It is true that the first iteration of the experiences that you would be able to build in the next experience or in the now experience platform, the new UI, sort of forced you into the UI builder, and it kind of gave this other type of persona that needed to do that. The UI builder persona is the one that is working on that is a little bit of more code, low code, where we immediately said this is not what we envisioned to be the ideal experience for what we call the dashboard builder. Basically, we want to allow everyone to just super quickly create an empty canvas, a white canvas, visual display, and start adding widgets to them, data visualizations, being either indicator data from PA, being either reporting data, being any kind of ServiceNow data in the near future. And in that way, build your visual story. So that is something that we're very much following, but because we're all moving and doing all those things in parallel, it is indeed something that just that still has to be done. It is, though, definitely the idea of what we heard a lot through our customer facing programs as well, is that we want to provide this way to move you over. There's a lot of content already in your existing systems, being reports and dashboards. So let's see how we can best empower and enable you on the new UI as well.
Pierre, I hope that answered your question. And if if we made it fuzzier or not, you can just add another question and
I guess, and then I'm reading the question there again. He is thinking about this, right? So that's definitely the way to think about it. The thing that I actually did not mention was also data visualizations as part of workspaces. So there's also this notion of let's rethink the world how it was in the classic UI 16, where we had lists and forms and custom applications, and we had dashboards and we had report designers and PA widget forms. And these were all these separate areas where, of course, the workspaces are very much for a certain persona, but very much targeted around this end persona journey, that they do all the work within that specific workspace. Now, that's an area that also very much allows and is ready for maybe adding some additional data visualization, some additional analytics to it. Let's enable that end user within that workspace to already immediately see the analytics there where they do the work, to make it, as Adam put before, to make it actionable. You're working on a Now platform with real-time data within your workspace, within the place that you are doing your work. Let's provide them with that analytics to immediately get that business decision. So that's another way, apart from the dashboards, that we're also very much looking towards, as in, it should not always just be dashboards, although we want to create you that space. It should also be, think about embedded analytics as part of workspaces.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tara and Robert and Marta. We have some being answered. And again, Pierre, if you need more for that, please, you can definitely elaborate in another question if you need to. So again, we have some that are being typed. So real quick, I'll take one. So questions regarding filter conditions on dashboards, top of the dashboard. Our org often filters by assignment group. On our enterprise dashboard, if it appears that we can only choose one group at a time, we need the end user to be able to choose multiple at a time. Is this possible? This is possible, and this was going back to the New York release and forward. You have the ability to do this. You definitely can do this also in the Analytics Hub. So if you're not able to do this, then unfortunately can't really share or do a screenshot here, but maybe anonymous, if you could put, maybe a little bit more information here, because you should absolutely be able to do this, to select more than one at the dashboard level. So if you can maybe elaborate a little bit more on what you're seeing or not seeing, we can try to go into that a little bit more. Or you could definitely put a question into the community with actual screenshots, so we could see, if something is missing, not checked or whatnot at the breakdown source.
There's a setting, Thomas, and guys, there's a settings on the dashboard form itself. When you create dashboard, there's a setting, disable multiple element selection.
Okay.
Maybe that one is checked on your dashboard. So then the owner of the dashboard can just uncheck it, and then you should be able to select multiple elements on your breakdown selection.
And Olga, do you know if there is a docs that actually shows that, talks about that we could just put in the chat?
Let me find it. I will find and put it in the chat.
Great,
I found one here, so I can grab it.
You found one?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. And with that, Dan, once you paste that, I'll stay with you. It looks like you grabbed Maggie's question.
Yeah, so what I put in the, no, I got it. So what I put in the chat is I put in the, there's the link for disabling multi-select, but it's basically the same thing. There's a, where, so it could be that it's turned off on it, and that would be the thing that I would look for, but you should be able to, and it kind of shows the example on in that docs page. So the other question as Maggie had the question about breakdown filters, but I think primarily talking about breakdowns at the dashboard level. I'm going to assume, Maggie, correct me if I'm interpreting your question wrong, but I've got a filter at a breakdown at the dashboard level at the top left corner, and it can work as an interactive filter, but not, you can choose the act as filter, but I can't apply a cascading filter with that option, or at least it doesn't seem to work when I do that. That's what you're talking about, I believe is correct. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, and dev team, the inbound team, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is not an option to do that the way cascading filters work. Just don't allow it to work as a breakdown, or use the breakdown options the same way. And So I believe the answer is no, there is not a way to make the breakdown filter work with cascading filters. And again, anyone from the inbound leads, let me know if that's.
No, but I think that's going to be addressed when we have the unified filter in, when is that, Tokyo?
That was my follow-up to that. Yep, so to see if that's something that's changing.
Marta or Olga could answer that more confidently than we could.
Yep.
Yeah, the unified filters are already available from the UI builder pages. We don't have yet the cascading filters capability there, but indeed we are gonna have like the unified filters in the next experience are able to filter both indicators and table data. So you don't have any more the differentiation between the interactive filters and the breakdown filter on the page, on the dashboard level page.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Dan, Tara, and Marta. So we're going to jump to you now, Robert John. So Peter's question, main dashboard builder tool, responsible builder, pre-San Diego, UI builder for San Diego. Go for it, Robert.
Yeah, yeah, it's a follow up from the previous. I think if you state it like this, yes, that's correct. If we would say pre San Diego, if that's your main, if the core UI, the classic UI 16 is the environment you're working, even beyond San Diego, the responsive dashboard builder might still be your go-to tool. Then again, there is a moment in time. Rome, San Diego, and ideally as of Tokyo, that you can decide to start working in what we call the Now Experience platform, the next experience. And it has many benefits because you'll get those new components, you get the new dashboard editor, you get a better looking UI, more modern experience. The tricky thing here is indeed what you mentioned with UI Builder for San Diego. There was a moment in between Rome and San Diego State where we did have the UI Builder, and where within the UI Builder we had, and that was also what Marta mentioned before and Tara mentioned before, where we had this dashboard viewport component. So you can technically mimic a dashboard experience, but it was still using the UI Builder as its main tool set, as its main instrumentation for that. Which was, to my point earlier, which was a little bit too heavy for that persona that we envisioned to be the dashboard builder. So the one that we're now launching with Tokyo is that more end user friendly dashboard builder with the easy, for example, drag and drop kind of capabilities that you would expect also on the core UI.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robert Jean. Terry, you're up again. Is there a difference in how the homepage deprecation help tool works in San Diego and Utah?
No. So yes, I was going to answer that question. The homepage deprecation help tool is a store app. The latest release was the end of March. If there's any changes to that store app, it would be via the store. Any updates? I do not believe we've had any updates recently to it. It should work with San Diego and beyond, and should not impact anything.
As long as you have Rome patch 8 or San Diego patch 1 in your production instances, you can use the homepage deprecation help tool. And the version, we are gonna release a patch version in June, but it's just has one bug fix, but you can use the current version that is on the store, and all the next releases will be part of the store.
Awesome. Thanks, Marta.
Okay, thank you both. We got a few more here. I want to jump to one just to see if Adam has any thoughts on it. So any chance we could see a Now Intelligence mainline certification path in the future broader than CAS-PA to include PI and VA? Adam, any thoughts on that?
Maybe. I do have thoughts. So right now we have the PA certification. We've grown up, right? There's, as we're talking about here, there's a lot more than just PA in what the area we're looking at. So whether it's Now Intelligence, even now, the PA one has some reporting, and the PA one should have more reporting. We are looking at what makes sense to expect somebody to know and have a certification that matches the knowledge that we'd expect somebody in the analytics space to know. What that is, I don't know. I don't know if it'll include PA. There's also process optimization, or sorry, I don't know if it'll include predictive intelligence. It's also process optimization, the user experience analytics. There's a lot involved. So we are looking now to see what makes sense. That's not a specialty, but more of something that means something, right? Just because you know PA doesn't mean you know enough anymore. And there's plenty of other really important things that we want to know. So we're looking at it, but I don't. There's nothing changing in the San Diego timeframe.
Great, thanks, Adam. I knew that you were at that level where you were going to give that best answer, so that's why I called on you. So thank you.
It depends. Right. The answer is a strong "it depends" and a maybe. You can have those. You can quote me.
Okay, I'm quoting you in the community event. Gotcha. Okay, Dan, you want to go ahead with Dylan's question?
So yeah, Dylan had a question about examples of efficient or easy targets, really just talking about PPM and specific objectives, use cases for objectives. I will say that's a great example of where I think our workflow experts are probably going to be able to answer that better than we can, because we're definitely the PA and the PA and reporting, technical how-to and best practices. But I think I don't think anyone on our panel can really speak all that well to PPM specific objectives. So that might be one, either to talk with your account team to see if they can get an ITBM or a project management resource from ServiceNow, or put out in the community and ask for out in the community and maybe get some crowdsourcing from the community. So that would be my suggestion for that one.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. So Adam is typing one out. So as we're waiting, is there anyone on the panelists? I know quite often when we do these things, certain questions will come in that will trigger something in your mind that you want to share. So as we're waiting on that, if there's anyone that has anything, please feel free to do that. Marta, we have one that is directed at you from John. Thanks for your feedback. From an authorship standpoint, we assign PA admin type roles. With this role, each user has CRUD access to all PA objects instant-wide. However, reports dashboards require that they need to be shared with you before you can edit them. So I'm guessing, Marta, this is going back to the question about when sharing dashboards, do you have to share all the reports as well? I know you typed that out, but I don't know if you want to hit this one out loud or not.
Yeah, so for the current Core UI dashboards, we have not enabled this functionality. We are working on the next experience and the new dashboard editing experience. And in that case, we are allowing, like, if you are sharing a dashboard, then subsequently also all the data visualization that are in that dashboard will be shared to the user that have access to the dashboard. But like if that data visualization wants to be rich or opened outside of the dashboard, then we will actually take care of the share permissions that data visualization has outside of the dashboard. But it's not something that we have implemented for the classic Core UI dashboards. It's something that we are working on, and it will be available from Tokyo, but only for the new dashboards and the new dashboard editing experience inside workspaces.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marta. So we did have another one come in from Chris. Is it possible to make targets work when using breakdowns? I have them on my widgets indicators, but when I do a breakdown, the target line goes away. I need to find some documentation on that one.
Yes, but you will need to actually put the targets on that specific breakdown or on the specific breakdown element. So that's the main reason, most probably, that it goes away, is that you don't have actually a target for the breakdown overall or for the specific elements.
And there and I think we have a session on something similar to this. So if you have SLA attainment, now SLA attainment kind of makes sense to have across the board, right? But it's one of the few ones that do. If I had a target, a backlog target, or even time to resolve. Let's say I have mean time to resolve as my KPI. Well, if I break down by, if I have a target for it and I break down by priority, my priorities are probably different. So we have to go, well, I don't know what the target is. But one of the things you're able to do is for the breakdown, for each breakdown, you can define it. You can define it down to the element level. This is one of those areas that might be really interesting to put some automation in, and use a flow to start setting targets or modifying targets, whatever you want to do. But you might go in and say, for every assignment group, I want SLA attainment to apply to every element, but carry it down. So if I have my widget on SLA attainment, I have my global number, and then I set it for my assignment group, and it applies to every assignment group. But if I break down by priority, I don't have a target. Or I could go in and set it for my P1s have one target, my P2s have a different, my P3s have a different one. So it works whether you're setting individual or you're setting all. I don't think we have great support yet if you're setting big, large groups of them. But the targets are just records in the table. So, and you have the power of the platform behind you, so you can do a lot of things to make sure everything gets set correctly. But the general thing you're going to want to do is for the breakdown, say apply to all elements, and then it'll cascade down. And when you drill in, you will still see those targets. And if you haven't looked at targets for a while, there've been a lot of enhancements every release coming through on how do we set targets. Targets were pretty set for several releases for a very long time for those of us who've been around, but just been lots of great refinements and tools being put in. Amit's not on our call, right?
He is not.
He's not. But there are lots of targets. I think we had some more stuff in San Diego in the What's New. I think we covered some things in that. I know we had some in Rome. So go back. If you haven't looked at targets, take a look at what's there and how you can set them. And things, one of the asks we had for a very long time was percentage, like setting a percentage. And I think we have some of those things in place. So go back, look at what's in San Diego. Even if you're not in San Diego, that's okay. Take a look at what's there and make sure you're looking at those release notes going forward and see how targets fit for you. There's a reason why I let off of that's the most important thing you can do. And if you had looked in before that didn't work, go look again. Go look again how we set, because there's been a lot of enhancements out there to make them work better for you and adapt to your organization.
Tara.
Yeah, so I see, can you explain what parameters score is defined? Is it defining state? So if I have a score of 14 for an assignment group, is that tickets opened or closed? So generally how the job collector works is depending on how you define your indicator source, which is your master query. If you have it set on, for example, I'm looking at things that are created on today or closed on today. Today is actually a variable that gets passed when the job collector runs and gets replaced by the date specified in the job collector. So if you say the job collector looks at relative to the last 30 days, it will go back and replace created on today. It will replace today with every date that falls into the last 30 days. So if it returns a score of 14 and your parameter or query was created on the last 30 days and it returned 14 of a score for yesterday, then yesterday you had 14 incidents or cases or what tasks or whatever it is you're looking at created on yesterday, whatever date, that is. And then that shows you, regardless, it shows you what met that criteria at that point in time. Unfortunately, the records, the way the database works today, the records are, we just collect the sysids of the records that met that criteria. So the states won't necessarily be the states that they were at that time. They're the states that they were today. Does that make sense? I know that this has always been kind of a bit confusing because we do allow you to break down by state, by assignment group, whatever, but it basically is, these are what met that criteria at that point in time. So the scores are correct, the count is correct. It just, the data might look a little bit off when you look at the actual records because it's based off of what met the criteria at that point in time. I will say, and we have Isak on the phone if we want to take this one step further, that our database model is actually changing, and in the future, it won't be as confusing when it comes to that. You'll actually be looking at what the records were and what they look like at that point in time. But it is a little bit confusing the way it is right now, because while we give you an accurate count and aggregation, the actual records don't reflect 100% what you see in your collection. I hope that makes sense. I know it can be confusing for some folks, but we are making some big headway and changes in that direction. If that was confusing, I don't know.
Yeah, and Tara, they did actually give a clarification. It said it only collects record counts by created for days, months, quarter, and year. I believe that was associated to your same question.
Oh,
Popped in.
Just for clarification, it only collects record count by it collects record count based off of whatever your criteria is within your indicator source. So and then all aggregations are applied on top of that depending on how you have your indicators or widgets set up.
And they're just asking, they just want to make sure that's what you were saying. That's what they meant by
yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. And that's why at this point in time, the way our data collector works, we do recommend that you use dates, not states, within your queries, which is your indicator source, because that allows you to do that historical collection, and it'll go back and grab whatever met that criteria at that point in time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tara.
Mm-hmm.
Olga, real quick. So just not to skip over the other ones, but it is in reference to one that you answered. So per previous question at 1017 in Olga's response, dashboards are in global app. I'm an admin. I also have PA power user role, also tried elevating privileges, still not able to add or remove roles from the slush bucket. Have had 3 other team members try and we can't figure it out. Is there a hidden scoped app somewhere? We recently implemented HR module, which should not make a difference, but throwing it in there in case you are aware of something related to this.
Maybe created a support task. It looks like somebody needs to hop on the instance to try to figure out.
Yeah, so Kayla, just open up a high incident, and that would probably at this point be the best way to the next steps for that.
It's not as designed, so something maybe something secret, but then we have to look at the specific case.
Right. Thank you, Olga.
The question I got, and I'm typing it up, but I'll answer live too. A question had to do with roles and fulfillers, and I'm very conscious about licensing that comes through. So the question was, if I have a senior leader, I have some VP that needs to view a dashboard, but they don't have ITIL, what do we do? And licensing wise, consult your account executive to confirm that your contract falls into this. But generally our contracting or our licensing, if I'm dealing with a fulfiller-based subscription, so ITSM, CSM, this isn't an issue for HR generally, or if I have an unrestricted user license. But if I have a fulfiller-based license, then fulfillers cost money. And I don't necessarily want to pay for a fulfiller license just so somebody can run a report. And the way that we're able to address this is that viewing a report doesn't require a fulfillment license, a fulfiller license. And I'm going to sneeze at some point in time, so hopefully I'll finish before that. Viewing report doesn't require a fulfiller license, except for if you're viewing the details of the records, specifically the details of tasks. So if I have a list report that is just viewing the details, so that requires the fulfiller license, and you need ITIL or incident read or whatever the role is, which requires the license. If I'm going to drill into it, so I have a bar chart and I click into the bar chart, and I go to see the list view, I need to have a license. But simply viewing the reports, excluding list reports, you don't need a fulfiller license. And then performance analytics, you also don't need a fulfiller license. To view the lines, you don't need to see it. To view the reports, you don't need to see it. you do need a license if you're viewing a list report or you're viewing the records, you're doing show records. And it's, if you have the role, you then need a subscription, right? So it's not that you need a subscription to view it. It's that you need the role to view it. The role requires the subscription. So you can have a really powerful dashboard that is giving information and not have to use a fulfiller license. But once you drill in, you do. On the plus side, there's not a lot of VPs that want to know this specific incident. And for those of you who have those, and I do know they exist, well, then you need a fulfiller license. That's what the contract's for, or what it says to drill into it. But if I'm looking at a dashboard and I'm just viewing reports minus list reports, you don't need a license and you don't need to over provision those roles.
What role do you need to have? Someone just asked, based off of what you just said, what role do you need to have? Because you have to have like what?
You don't need it. You don't need any roles. There's no role specific to reporting. The dashboard just has to be shared to you. The reports need to be shared with you. So you can create a group with no roles and still view reports and dashboards. There's nothing specific. The role that you need, the fulfiller role, depends on the data, right? That's all specific. You need an ITSM role for ITSM. You need a CSM role for CSM. You need an ITBM role for ITBM. So that will all vary depending on the data. But to view a report, to view a dashboard and view a report, there is no specific role that's needed. There's no role that is needed. You can do it all with groups pretty easily. I just had a caveat that I was going to put out there. Also, if I have a senior leader that needs to come in, I probably am not going to get them a fulfiller license because I don't want them to break anything to come through. So then I'm going to look at a business stakeholder license. So there is a license that lets you view, right? That lets you view all your records. So that's one. If you have a class, like so you have some managers who are just viewing records, but they're not working on the records, then you'd want to look at something in the business stakeholder subscription. So lots of ways to do it. We're not trying, there's a way to provision it correctly, to entitle it correctly. You'll want to talk to your account executive to make sure that you have the right subscriptions to match your needs. You're not overpaying a lot.
And I think that Adam continues to, they added another thing that says, but if an end user only gets to the portal, how can they get to the dashboard and or reports to view? But I think that you just answered that. You should just get with whoever your admin is to make sure, or your.
Yeah, if they're coming in from a portal, then they're just viewing reports. It's okay. The end data that they're showing is still secured. And then when those ACLs come in, if they're viewing the records, then they're going to need a role that grants them the ability to view the records, and they're going to need a license for that. The dashboards, I believe dashboards are not accessible at all through a service portal. So you're going to have to go into to a workspace or go into the classic UI. But it's not. It's tied to what they're able to see is what the subscriptions are. For a bigger conversation, you probably want to talk to your AE and walk through your use case or somebody to look at what you're doing and how to do it. But there are ways of doing it. You don't have to just get everybody a fulfiller license. There certainly are better ways to do that. And most of the time there's better ways to do it that are more cost efficient.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. So Dan, if you want to go ahead and talk about
I think I will more facilitate as much as anything.
Yeah.
Maggie had the question of it, and we've been asked to have an on-call schedules for all groups exported on a daily basis. The schedules use the V_rotation. So kind of a two-part question. My understanding is that we cannot use the V_ tables for reporting. I don't believe that is true. My understanding is I believe you can use the V tables. So I want to have anyone else on the call, please feel free to correct me on that.
I've never seen a restriction on reporting on V tables.
No, you should be able to do the export as CSV. So I guess I'm that.
There shouldn't be anything special. If the V tables, they're all generated tables. Or if you see a V table, V stands for magic where it comes in. So there can be some weird things that happen. But I don't have any restrictions. If you have a specific use case that's not working, I'd probably post in the community, see if somebody knows what's going on or why is it expected or not. And then If it's really not working, we might need a support case on support, but there's not a restriction that I know about on how to do it. And then a table is a table. Views kind of work as tables too. So you should be able to export as a CSV. You might want to look at export sets if you're doing a recurring export. I think you need to use a mid server for that, but that might be what you're looking for as well. But lots of ways of doing it, and there shouldn't be any restrictions based on what I'm hearing.
So Adam, you're still answering one via type. Marta just finished one. I'm working on one here now. It is 12:52. Just want to give a couple more minutes if anybody has any. Will the chat be available in the recording? Brad asked that in the chat. So Brad, the questions will be available in the recording, and then any of the ones that were typed, I'll make sure that those get added to the event as well. So you shouldn't miss anything. Great answer. Great question. I just pop in.
Before you answer that, I will address Knowledge 22. If anyone's planning on attending, we will have representation from our platform analytics team at every single knowledge session. I know in Las Vegas, if any of you are planning to attend, myself, Adam Stout, and Thomas will be there. So we'll be looking for, come find us. We'll be at some booth somewhere. We don't know where, but I know Adam, you'll be in New York as well. We do have some folks in Sydney, although I don't know if anyone on this call is in Sydney. We'll have Eric Zernhelt, Amanda Jocelyn representing our organization in Sydney, and Heath, Marta, Robert Jan will all be representing us in The Hague in Amsterdam, Netherlands. So if anyone has an opportunity to run over and say hello, come ask us any questions live. That would be really exciting to meet some of you in person, since it's been so long since we've been able to see folks in person. So K22, we will have representation everywhere. Hunt us down. Say hello. We'd really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I agree. It'd be awesome to put faces with names that we've seen, especially over the past couple of years, not being able to get together. So it'd be awesome. I look forward to seeing.
I'll be in New York next week as well, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't realize you were going to be in New York. I left you off. Awesome.
So a question came in the chat, and I'm just going to read it. I know it doesn't necessarily require an answer, but we hear you. So it says, not a question, just comment. Would love to have more advanced examples of dashboards and or PA items. I feel like the out-of-box stuff is very simple and more about taking baby steps than really showing what the application platform can do. I wish there was more PA stuff out of the box or installable that made me feel inspired or think, wow, that's cool. So we hear you, Paul, and I think that you definitely asked that in the right meeting, because there are people that are on this call, the panelists, that have direct impact on that. So I know that we try as hard as we can with every release to give as much things as we possibly can out of the box. And if we can get more dynamic with that and more advanced, then I think that only makes the platform better. So I know that the people on the call will definitely take note. And if any of them quickly want to speak to that, or even Adam, I love calling on Adam. He always has great perspectives, but I think you're right. So the more that we can do, the better the platform is. And with every release, we try to do that.
I mean, I'll add in there. We're going to ask your questions in the community. We read through that, and we're going to try and address more complex use cases and more how-tos. That's on our list for this year, to go through some of the deep stuff.
I think that's a very legitimate. We're definitely aware of the feedback, and I think that's a good example. I think that's a great question or a great piece of feedback.
Definitely. So we have 3 questions here, and I don't know if anybody wants to jump on any one of those 3. If not, we will, because we are close to the top of the hour. We'll definitely have even the 3 of these questions answered, and I will put something inside of the community event unless someone has a quick answer for any one of these 3.
What I would say is, John, you said you've had an idea out in the idea portal, and you're asking for people to vote. If you have not done so yet, would you put that link to the in the chat so that others can find it more, so we can find it more directly? because I think that's a great. So here was the question about the ability to have comma separated PA data labels from a previous session, submitted an idea. So.
Yep. Thank you, Dan. And then Amy, on your question, is there some detailed documentation about metrics, best practice, any ones we do with incident, state, duration, assignment group schedule, which run very long or hang? So we have actually had an academy session on metrics, and I do believe I remember Adam talking specifically about, oh, look at that, he grabbed that quick. So he had something there for you. So
I sent the link to the previous session on metrics.
Okay.
I would take a look at that if you haven't watched it. And then if there's a specific issue where you're getting into it, that's a great community question, but we kind of need to see what you have set up, what you're trying to do. There's with metrics and PA, there's a lot of things to configure and lots of things you can do. So seeing some screenshots can help us find an answer. So feel free to tag Thomas. He'll get on it. But the community is a great resource to get that type of thing worked out.
And John did give that link. I put it in the chat as well. So if that's something you'd like to see, definitely go and upvote that as he has asked.
Fantastic, because the votes do matter.
Yeah. And Quentin, we're not going to forget about you. I'll try to get something, or I'll get something into the event that will answer your particular question. So we are at the top of the hour. So real quickly, I'll just kind of go over some last minute things. So as Tara talked about, knowledge, these are the locations. There's the link there that you can go to. So if you're not going, or if you want to go, we hope everyone will go. You need to go ahead and get registered for that, and hopefully we'll see everyone. Always, everything's in the community, so make sure that you're checking that out regularly. This will be out there on this community page later on today as part of the event. And don't forget about Now Learning. It's always being updated with newer and greater things. So definitely check that out when you can. And then there are a couple advanced courses the PA advanced course is now on demand as well. So check that out. And some other great academies that are out there: Creator Workflows and Platform Academy, Mobile App Academy, and Virtual Agent Academy are out there. We're actually working on sort of cross-pollination with those, where they're going to come and do some of theirs for us, and we're going to go and do some of ours for them. So look for that in the future as well. And with that, thank you. If no one else has one, thank you, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye.